time, but again, I haven't got a particularly long answer because it's fairly common sense. I think the country is tending to be overpopulated. With no border controls and apparent laxness of the system to vetting people coming in, and there are many illegal people. Tragic, wasn't it, that the person that was murdered inadvertently at the time of the terrorists was the Brazilian gentleman who was had outstayed his time here. It cost him his life, but it does reflect, I think it reflects on the difficulty of controlling immigration and the sort of problems that it does leave. I certainly, as a humanist and a Christian, I certainly believe that we must care for the people that are here, and incidentally it's like the 1948 invitation to the West Indian community to come and do jobs that our indigenous people won't do. It's a bit like that, so don't forget the fact that we've welcomed people in to do some of the jobs we're unwilling to do. However, we are going to be inundated with people. I think we must do our best to control the systems. And again, I say, look at the countries that have reputable or systems we admire, as we hear, for controlling. I think the Netherlands and America and Germany have excellent, better controls than we do. So that's my answer to that. Treat right the people that are here, but start to get a firm grip on control of numbers coming in.
Okay, well, good question. When will it be curbed? Well, as soon as the government look up and take their heads out and stand and do something about it, quite frankly. No control in France is where I see the main issue. It's because the French obviously do not do checks on their side. They're quite happy to let illegal immigrants board lorries. They see them doing it, but don't want to act because they don't want to take responsibility for them. When they've gone through the tunnel, they then become our responsibility. I feel that there should be a holding centre somewhere in Europe, could be anywhere really, where genuine refugees can go if their lives are in danger. No one's begrudging anybody that, having a gun to their head, running for safety. We would all do that no matter what society we lived in. If we feel we're being threatened, we want to be protected. Then, once they've been vetted in that centre in Europe, then they are sent to different parts of the European community. At the moment, Britain gets the lot, and it's totally unfair, it's totally unjust, and it's a burden on our health and on our, obviously on the country's finance as well, because we're obviously on benefits, etc., etc. It does need addressing. There's no clear-cut answer to it, I'm afraid. You can't wave a magic wand, but basically go along with what Charlie said. It's better controls, much better controls at the borders, which includes the tunnel and France doing their bit. And that's the bottom line. Yes, sir.
Who would fund that holding centre?
The European community, sir. The European community. And then, as I say, everybody would then be divvied out, so no one country ended up with everything. And at the moment, we are the stopping ground, and unfortunately it is draining our resources. People speak about that to me all the time. They are concerned where the money's going. I love living in a multicultural society. We've learned so many new things. They brought new ideas to us, and a lot of the immigrants that come in are adding to our society and working, and obviously supplying jobs as well. There's no beef with that. The beef is the illegal in the back of the lorries. Once they get in the country, that's Chinese mostly. Anyone you like from North Africa, they all pile in, and there's no control. It needs to stop.
It's very easy in political debate, and this always comes up in a general election, to use scare tactics in order to win votes. It's a grimy, gutter way of going about a policy that is extremely complicated in a global environment where people are moving from country to country all the time. One of the huge advantages that we have in Britain, and it's served us well for many years, is that we have actually a moat around our community. And so it's much more difficult for immigrants to come here than any other country in Europe. The continent of Europe has movement of people over their borders constantly every day. We don't. Of course, under the previous Tory administration, the system of counting people in and counting people out. Stop, Caroline can shake her head, but it's actually a fact. That was a system where we were able to measure, even though there was a certain repressiveness about it, we did measure who came into the country and who left. That's now been reinstituted. But illegal immigration is not the serious problem it used to be. Those numbers are now hugely reducing month by month. One of the things that we see in Gosport is the way that the Immigration Removal Centre is actually working in a very tough but a very organised way, not a repressive way, but a responsible way, to move illegal immigrants out of the country. Now, it's been said that illegal immigrants drain resources. Actually, that isn't the case. And immigration doesn't drain our resources. Actually, immigration in Britain contributes to our economic growth and stability. Our problem at the moment is we have very few young people. If we're going to pay our pensions and if we're going to pay our debts, we need bright people to come here for a while, contribute to our economy, and then go home, as the vast majority do.
At the risk of being extremely brief on this, it is a fairly straightforward, simple answer. I think they've alluded to the fact that we have no real idea of how deep this problem is. But to be honest, most of those people are coming in on the back of lorries. What's happening is we don't have entry and exit controls. We do not have any idea when somebody comes here to stay for a few months to work, whether they've gone home yet or not. What we need is to restore those entry and exit controls, and what we need is to put in place, alongside that, a proper, coordinated border force. They're not just dealt with immigration, it can deal with the problem of drugs coming across from the continent, it can deal with illegal arms coming across from the continent. It is in the Liberal Democrats' manifesto that they will create a coordinated border force for this country to restore our borders and to put that entry and exit control so we actually know how many people overstay. Because, to be honest, we've got no idea at the moment.
Okay, first of all, we'll start with the history lesson. The embarkation checks that Graham alluded to for EU countries were stopped in 1994 by the last Conservative administration, but that was in response to EU regulations. And as you will all know, the EU is something that my Labour and Liberal friends on either side of me is something that they would much more like to see us involved with at a greater level. It was actually Labour in 1998 that cancelled those embarkation checks for the rest of the world. It wasn't the Conservatives. We would restore them, but we would also introduce specially targeted border force police so that our borders are properly monitored. We have an idea of who's coming in, an idea of who's going out, and we can make sure that it happens. Now, Graham is right to say that we do sometimes need people to come to this country with certain skills that we have a shortage of. But he may not be aware that 10 minutes before I walked into this room, they announced the latest unemployment figures, which are 43,000 up on what they were the last time they were announced. This country is rapidly heading towards 3 million unemployed again, and that is not including the extra 2 million that are on incapacity benefit. There are 5.5 million people in this country that are not working. We do not need to have endless numbers of people coming here to work. We need to have a limit on the number, and there needs to be a limit based upon the actual skills that we need. In the Tory administration of the 90s, the figure was around about 48,000. It was 48,000 in 1997. That figure of immigrants went up to around 200,000 in the last 13 years of Labour. We have not got the healthcare, we have not got the sustainability, we have not got the houses, we have not got the schools, we have not got the infrastructure to support that level of people coming in and out. Now, very briefly, the Liberal Democrats will talk about policing our borders, etc., but they would grant an amnesty on any illegal immigrants that have been here for more than 10 years. That is 650,000 people that would be allowed to stay here scot-free because they came in and managed to sink under the radar the time they've been here. The Liberal Democrats will also sign us up to a common EU asylum and immigration policy, which means that as much as they might like to talk about controlling our borders, it would be completely out of their control.